Trying to read our DNA is like trying to understand software code, with only 90% of the code riddled with errors. It's very difficult in that case to understand and predict what that software code is going to do. The lessons of history would suggest that civilizations move in cycles. You can track that back quite far: the Babylonians, the Sumerians, followed by the Egyptians, the Romans, China. We're obviously in a very upward cycle right now. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. SpaceX has the potential of saving the U.S. government $1 billion a year. We are opposed to creating an entrenched monopoly with no realistic means for anyone to compete. My proceeds from the PayPal acquisition were $180 million. I put $100 million in SpaceX, $70 million in Tesla, and $10 million in SolarCity. I had to borrow money for rent. Over time, I think we will probably see a closer merger of biological intelligence and digital intelligence. Rockets are cool. There's no getting around that. I think it would be great to be born on Earth and die on Mars. Just hopefully not at the point of impact. If you had to buy a new plane every time you flew somewhere, it would be incredibly expensive. I'm a Silicon Valley guy. I just think people from Silicon Valley can do anything. In the case of Apple, they did originally do production internally, but then along came unbelievably good outsourced manufacturing from companies like Foxconn. We don't have that in the rocket business. There's no Foxconn in the rocket business. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. I hate writing about personal stuff. I don't have a Facebook page. I don't use my Twitter account. I am familiar with both, but I don't use them. There are some important differences between me and Tony Stark, like I have 5 kids, so I spend more time going to Disneyland than parties. From an evolutionary standpoint, human consciousness has not been around very long. A little light just went on after 4.5 billion years. How often does that happen? Maybe it is quite rare. The value of beauty and inspiration is very much underrated, no question. But I want to be clear, I'm not trying to be anyone's savior. I'm just trying to think about the future and not be sad. I had so many people try to talk me out of starting a rocket company, it was crazy. I think long-term you can see Tesla establishing factories in Europe, in other parts of the US and in Asia. Biofuels such as ethanol require enormous amounts of cropland and end up displacing either food crops or natural wilderness, neither of which is good. I've actually not read any books on time management. Selling an electric sports car creates an opportunity to fundamentally change the way America drives. Mars is the only place in the solar system where it's possible for life to become multiplanetarian. The path to the CEO's office should not be through the CFO's office, and it should not be through the marketing department. It needs to be through engineering and design. I think we are at the dawn of a new era in commercial space exploration. Tesla is becoming a real car company. I would like to die on Mars. Just not on impact. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. I'm reasonably optimistic about the future, especially the future of the United States, for the century, at least. A Prius is not a true hybrid, really. The current Prius is, like, 2% electric. It's a gasoline car with slightly better mileage. I think Tesla will most likely develop its own autopilot system for the car, as I think it should be camera-based, not LiDAR-based. However, it is also possible that we do something jointly with Google. Some companies out there quote a start of production that is substantially in advance of when customers get their cars. Land on Mars, a round-trip ticket, $500,000. It can be done. I tend to approach things from a physics framework. And physics teaches you to reason from first principles rather than by analogy. It is theoretically possible to warp space-time itself, so you're not actually moving faster than the speed of light, but it's actually space that's moving. If you think back to the beginning of cell phones, laptops or really any new technology, it's always expensive. The U.S. automotive industry has been selling cars the same way for over 100 years, and there are many laws in place to govern exactly how that is to be accomplished. There's nothing, I've bought everything I want. I don't like yachts or anything, you know, I'm not a yacht person. And I've got pretty much the nicest plane I'd want to have. The pace of progress on Mars depends upon the pace of progress of SpaceX. Stationary storage will be as big as the car business long term. The growth rate will probably be several times what it is for the car business. The factory is the machine that builds the machine. There's a silly notion that failure's not an option at NASA. Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. If we're going to have any chance of sending stuff to other star systems, we need to be laser-focused on becoming a multi-planet civilization. I'm trying to construct a world that maximizes the probability that SpaceX continues its mission without me. If you look at our current technology level, something strange has to happen to civilizations, and I mean strange in a bad way. And it could be that there are a whole lot of dead, one-planet civilizations. We could definitely make a flying car, but that's not the hard part. The hard part is, how do you make a flying car that's super safe and quiet? Because if it's a howler, you're going to make people very unhappy. Here in the West, people often don't like listening to their leaders, even if they are right. I usually describe myself as an engineer. That's basically what I've been doing since I was a kid. The reason we should do a carbon tax is because it's the right thing to do. It's economics 101, elementary stuff. As you heat the planet up, It's just like boiling a pot. Facebook is quite entrenched and has a network effect. It's hard to break into a network once it's formed. Government isn't that good at rapid advancement of technology. It tends to be better at funding basic research. To have things take off, you've got to have commercial companies do it. The rumors of the demise of the U.S. manufacturing industry are greatly exaggerated. The United States is definitely ahead in culture of innovation. If someone wants to accomplish great things, there is no better place than the U.S. I think a lot of the American people feel more than a little disappointed that the high-water mark for human exploration was 1969. The dream of human space travel has almost died for a lot of people. I wouldn't say I have a lack of fear. In fact, I'd like my fear emotion to be less because it's very distracting and fries my nervous system. I've been to Disneyland, like, 10 times. I'm getting really tired of Disneyland. America is the spirit of human exploration distilled. You could warm Mars up, over time, with greenhouse gases. I'm personally a moderate and a registered independent, so I'm not strongly Democratic or strongly Republican. I think most of the important stuff on the internet has been built. There will be continued innovation, for sure, but the great problems of the internet have essentially been solved. If humanity doesn't land on Mars in my lifetime, I would be very disappointed. If anyone has a vested interest in space solar power, it would have to be me. I'm anti-tax, but I'm pro-carbon tax. If we drive down the cost of transportation in space, we can do great things. Nobody wants to buy a $60,000 electric Civic. But people will pay $90,000 for an electric sports car. I feel very strongly that SpaceX would not have been able to get started, nor would we have made the progress that we have, without the help of NASA. Physics is really figuring out how to discover new things that are counterintuitive, like quantum mechanics. It's really counterintuitive. Even if producing CO2 was good for the environment, given that we're going to run out of hydrocarbons, we need to find some sustainable means of operating. What I'm trying to do is to make a significant difference in spaceflight, and help make spaceflight accessible to almost anyone. I'd like to dial it back 5% or 10% and try to have a vacation that's not just email with a view. I don't think it's a good idea to plan to sell a company. Winning Motor Trend Car of the Year is probably the closest thing to winning the Oscar or Emmy of the car industry. I'm glad to see that BMW is bringing an electric car to market. That's cool. You need to be in the position where it is the cost of the fuel that actually matters and not the cost of building the rocket in the first place. My vision is for a fully reusable rocket transport system between Earth and Mars that is able to refuel on Mars. This is very important, so you don't have to carry the return fuel when you go there. Silicon Valley has some of the smartest engineers and technology business people in the world. A battery by definition is a collection of cells. So the cell is a little can of chemicals. And the challenge is taking a very high energy cell, and a large number of them, and combining them safely into a large battery. I've actually made a prediction that within 30 years a majority of new cars made in the United States will be electric. And I don't mean hybrid, I mean fully electric. My opinion is it's a bridge too far to go to fully autonomous cars.